If you haven't noticed from the candles, this is the Halloween episode. Spooky. And you know what else happens on Halloween? My book finally comes the out. So today we'll actually be cooking a recipe from the book. Not this one, this was just a page I turned to. And then applying it to a recipe that isn't in the book, because I didn't do nachos in this book and I want to do nachos. But before I do any of that, let me put on my Halloween costume. I'll be right back. Okay. Tremble in fear. If you don't know what that sound is, that's the sound of a lot of Asian trauma just wakening up all around you. Now let's get started. Now you may or may not know that Halloween happens to be the busiest pizza delivery day in the entire year. Even busier than the Super Bowl, which is number 2. And that usually means deliveries can take 1, 2, multiple hours longer than it usually takes when you do order pizza. So the reason why I'm doing nachos today is because I wanted to make something that was easy enough to throw together with things that you may or may not already have, but also like with some cool shit from the book that you can make on a sheet pan while you are waiting for your pizza to arrive. The recipe from the book that we're using is my Chorizo Infused Chili Oil. What that entails is the use of my regular chili oil and then slow cooked with a bunch of bulk chorizo, the Mexican style that you can get from your supermercado. And that is slow cooked into the oven, which produces you a chorizo infused chili oil, as well as a bunch of crispy fried chorizo that had been frying in chili oil, which we will put on top of the nachos. The only 2 things that you really need are chili oil, which we can tag into the video here, and some bulk chorizo. Do not get the Spanish type that is already cased in a sausage. Get the bulk type that is loose, that is kind of like ground pork or whatever. That is the best type to use this because it's the easiest type to mix in with all of the oil. So we're just gonna do this, making sure you get all of the amazing chili crisp and Szechuan peppercorns in there as well, because we are pretty much just transforming what chili oil we have into this great porky, salty, delicious chorizo chili oil to replace the whole thing. Now you can either use chopsticks or potato masher or anything, but you really just want to break down the chorizo as nicely and as fine as possible. Get it really nice and mixed into the oil here. The best way to do that is to use your hands so you can get all of the fine chunks out and get it really nice and mixed in with the oil. I do highly recommend using some kind of gloves to do this because it's not a fun feeling. And once you do have it all incorporated, like so, place the chili oil and the chorizo into a walled roasting pan and spread it out evenly over the pan. If you find that it looks kind of like this, where there's obviously way more chorizo than the chili oil can handle, do not worry, just top it off with some regular oil, the kind that you use to make the chili oil to begin with. In my case, it's peanut oil. And once you can see that the chorizo is fully covered, and you'll notice that after this has been in the oven for a while, the oil will increase even more because the chorizo solids will kind of render into it. You'll put this into a low oven for, hold on, I don't remember how long it's for. 250 degrees. 250 degrees for 45 minutes. So, after a while, your chorizo will be completely infused. All of the fat from the chorizo itself will be rendered off into the oil and mixed with the chili oil, producing a chili oil that is not only a little bit spicy and numbing, but also like smoky and porky as a result. The book and instructions say to do it for 45 minutes, but honestly, at that low of a heat, the longer the better. Now all that there's left to do is strain it all out. Separate the oil from the solids. And you're gonna want to store these independently. So you want just the oil in the jar, and then you want just the chorizo on its own, because both of them will last a different amount of time. This will last 30 days in the fridge at the very least. I mean, I have not personally run into a time where I saw this go bad. The chorizo will last you about a week unless you freeze it. Now, what are some of the things that I like to use this for? I love putting these on just some boiled noodles and then topped with this stuff with maybe a little bit of soy sauce and then use that as like a crumble to add on top of it. Delicious. But today we're gonna use them for nachos. What you add to your nachos is all obviously a matter of preference. The only thing that's really important is the order of things that you put in, making sure that you layer your chips with chips and then stuff so that you don't end up with just a bunch of stuff on top of a nachos and just some naked chips underneath. Today I'm just gonna share with you a couple little tips and tricks for you to enjoy your favorite type of nachos in the best way that you want. So first I'm going to add some roasted jalapeno. All that skin pretty much just rubs right off. You can remove the seeds of the jalapeno if you want, but Padma Lakshmi does not do that, and neither will I. Another fun thing I like to do is when using any kind of cheese that is going to melt, spice your cheese, because when you cook cheese, the oils come out of the surface and fry whatever is around them. So it would make sense that if you kind of coat your cheese in spice, such as cumin or Kashmiri chili or Szechuan peppercorns, or even a spice blend like this one. The oils from the cheese mixed in with the heat in the oven will fry up the spices and give you even more depth of flavor than just the cheese would on its own. Then also add in some scallions for before cooking and scallions for after cooking. And then a meat layer here. You pretty much have a very simple but effective recipe for nachos. I would go for a tortilla chip that has some like structural heft to it. And of course, I would only do like a corn tortilla chip because that is still part of the flavor of it. I miss it when it's not there. Now, there are two types of pans that I prefer to do it in. I wouldn't like to do it in a giant baking sheet, which a lot of people do. This will require a little bit more baking time because it's layered so much. It also keeps things nicely like together. Another pan that's really great for this is a cast iron skillet. First of all, it looks very, very fancy and very nice. Everything looks fancy and nice in a cast iron skillet. But then also the cast iron skillet does a really good job of keeping things nice and warm. And this goes to an oven, 375, until all the cheese has melted, about like 5 to 10 minutes. Yoink. Now I just top that off with some fresh scallions. Chorizo, cheese, chili oil, spices. This will definitely tide you over until your pizza gets here, if you even need pizza at all. This was way faster and just as tasty.